Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rural Rapport. I'm your host, Teresa Hoffman, with the Center for Rural Affairs. Renewable energy development, energy conservation, and energy efficiency improvements offer an opportunity for rural communities to save money, become more energy resilient, and increase the reliability of the electric grid. Last fall, the U.S. Department of Energy awarded $30 million in funding through the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program to 28 state, local, and tribal governments. A product of the bipartisan infrastructure law, the funds will be used to improve energy efficiency and advance clean energy and infrastructure upgrades in public and private spaces, including hospitals, homes, manufactured housing parks, and government buildings across the country. Included in the 30 million was 8.8 million awarded to 12 communities as part of a competitive grant process. Those recipients included the City of Decorah and the Clean Energy Districts of Iowa, which received 1.1 million to provide vital technical assistance for local governments and schools across 8 counties in eastern Iowa and southwest Wisconsin. Joining me to talk about the grant and the group's renewable energy development efforts is Andy Johnson, Executive Director of the Clean Energy Districts of Iowa. Andy, thank you for joining me today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
So, Andy, can you tell me more about the Clean Energy Districts of Iowa?
Sure. The Clean Energy Districts of Iowa, or CEDI as we shorten it, is an association actually of 14 county level clean energy districts. The Clean Energy District model is one of local leadership, local ownership of the clean energy transition, we like to say, for the ends of both local prosperity and climate stewardship. And that's important because we are all working for a healthy climate, healthy future, healthy home places, but we're doing so in ways, and we often lead with the economic benefits that our communities, often many of them rural, but not all of the clean energy districts are rural. We cover rural and urban areas. This clean energy transition can really bring significant prosperity locally. It can bring it home, so to speak. And our local model really does focus on that quite a bit. So the clean energy districts are modeled at the county level loosely off of soil and water conservation districts, which many of your listeners will be familiar with. And CFRE has worked with soil and water districts for a long time. And along that vein, then we prioritize technical assistance, which we'll talk more about here today, to local energy users of all stripes, households, businesses, farms, institutions, along with what oftentimes community energy organizations do, is that education and community engagement, and also actually advocacy, which we could get more to at some point if you want. But that's roughly our model. And the clean energy districts, you mentioned about 8, I believe, are the focus of this EECBG program. That's because those are the non-metro counties, and the metro counties receive direct formula allocation already. So.
Well, you talked about that program. So what led to your organization working with the City of Decorah, and when did you begin to prioritize renewable energy infrastructure and energy efficiency initiatives?
Yeah, so first of all, local governments are the only eligible applicants for EECBG program. That goes back quite a ways, but in this round also with the bipartisan infrastructure law. So thankfully, the City of Decorah, we've always had a good relationship here. One of our first energy district actually was based here in Winneshiek County and has worked with Decorah for a long time. So thankfully, they were willing to work with us as a nonprofit to submit an application. When we made it clear that SETI would develop the app and implement the programming, they were good with that. So those kind of partnerships between nonprofits and local governments aren't unusual, and when they work well, they're really, really impactful. And in this case, though, I do want to mention that I mentioned it before, we've prioritized technical assistance always to local energy users. And that's really important here because we've worked directly with the City of Decorah over the years on technical assistance. This grant project isn't just about sort of funding one big piece of infrastructure or project. It's about providing that technical assistance. And I need to note a little bit about our perspective on that, because a lot of folks may have had, say, an energy audit or heard audits being mentioned, or figured, like most of us as energy users, whether we're households or homes or farms or businesses or whatnot, hey, there's a lot of energy work I probably could do. I'm just not sure what to do and what to spend money on. And in this world of energy transition, all of these technologies, even just in our households, but especially all the way up to the larger institutions like local governments, are technical. They're very technical issues. And just like in the ag side with the soil and water districts, they've always led with technical assistance. We said very early on, we really need to do this and we need to try and do it well because there is no sort of universal local technical assistance provider for energy, for clean energy. We describe that as energy planning, not so much energy auditing. It includes energy auditing, but energy planning is a little bit different. Auditing has traditionally been sort of done by utilities and others as a program-driven product. They pay auditors to zoom in and out and do a quick report and leave it on your desk or whatnot, maybe email it to you. And in most cases, nationwide, about 90% of those have no impact. Nothing ever comes of it because there's not enough information there. It's not comprehensive enough. There's not follow through. The customers don't know what to do with this. So this is a little bit of a background, but it's important to this project as well as to our model because when we discuss energy planning, it's meant to include that whole journey, really quality upfront inventory with the customers. What are your goals? Good diagnostics, good economic analysis as well, presentation, and then working with the customer on, okay, how do you want to do this? Because oftentimes there are a lot of possible improvements, energy practices, and it's almost never the case that a household or a business can do it all at once. You got to kind of pick and choose, you got to prioritize. And so that's a big part of what we really try and do with technical assistance and energy planning and make it that customer-centered process versus just a program-driven product. And the city of Decorah, thankfully, understands that. We've done that with them over the years, and that's what we're hoping to do now, kind of along those lines with a lot of other local governments throughout the region.
Well, and of course, that planning always leads to, possible projects. And so, you have to find a way to pay for those. And so this grant program, the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, how did you learn about that and share how you came together with Decorah to make the decision to apply?
Yeah, there's a fun history there because EECBG, this program, this grant program, Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant, actually started over a decade ago with the earlier stimulus, the ARA funds back in 2010 or so, and that's also when here in Winneshiek, the very first clean energy district was getting off the ground, and we started and we said technical assistance, we really need to do that, but that takes money. And our very first successful grant was an EECBG project with the city of Decorah, 13 years ago. So this is a little bit of deja vu for us. We've been familiar with that program for a long time. And that first round, we actually focused on households and businesses. We were just figuring out technical assistance. There weren't a lot of the standards and practices in place that we have today. But it was a highly successful project. And we actually worked with, well, on the business side, 50 Main Street businesses here in the city of Decorah and 45 implemented projects, and many of them we still work with today. And so back then, solar wasn't highly economical. It was the very, very, very early days, but we started doing technical assistance, incorporating that along with our energy efficiency technical assistance. And actually, that was what created then a local rolling solar market, because when some came to realize, okay, I'm going to do the efficiency, but yeah, that solar looks interesting. And there weren't contractors. So then we have to go to work with the electrical contractors and with the community college and do the trainings. And we got that market rolling. So yeah, our history does go a ways back here with Decorah. But in this case, it's really important to note Decorah was just our local government applicant partner. And now the clean energy districts of Iowa are going to be able to do this across many, many, many counties.
Well, that's great. You've talked a lot about technical assistance, and that's part of this grant that you received. Talk about what that is. What is technical assistance kind of, and how is that going to be provided through this grant? And what are some of the things you're going to do to, I guess, get that out there and help these local governments and schools? And what's the timeline?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, we think about and describe technical assistance as energy planning. That includes energy audit, includes a lot of diagnostics and analysis. First of all, of course, it includes a lot of outreach because we need to get the word out. And that's part of what our energy district model is good at because they're local. And so they have those local relationships. And so in this grant, this project, we designed it to focus on local governments and schools and school districts and other local institutions, in large part because they have, so many needs and so many opportunities. Many of those opportunities mesh well with other aspects of the federal legislation, both the BIL and the Inflation Reduction Act now, with, for example, tax credits being available to non-taxable entities. So that's huge. And we've already worked actually over many years with many local governments on solar projects, but they've often been done, say, through PPA arrangements and other things like that. Now it's more likely and more economically feasible for local governments to invest directly in solar, in some cases, solar plus storage, in addition to hopefully many of those core energy efficiency projects. So we will have, our goal is actually to have three full-time energy planners. These are probably qualification-wise will need to be commercial energy auditors. They'll need to be people with some experience. One of them hopefully will be an engineer. Nowadays in projects like this across the country, workforce are some of our biggest challenges. So whether we can find the appropriate people and how long that takes is a question mark. So big note right now to any listeners, pass it along. We have positions open right now on the Clean Energy Districts of Iowa website. It's cleanenergydistricts.org for these positions. So we're actively looking, even though timeline wise, while federal grants can take a while for contracting. So yes, the notification came, the end of last year, and we've been in that process. Technically, we're not up and running yet. We're hoping, and we think DOE is ready to finalize those contracts here coming shortly. So we're hoping in May at some point, maybe later May, to start providing technical assistance. And then those energy planners, those technical assistance providers will be available to move around throughout our counties and maybe some neighboring counties, depending on demand, and work directly with schools, local governments, to a lesser degree maybe, but we also do hope to do some serious work on multifamily housing and do the analysis, do the work, the diagnostics and analysis, and run the numbers and help those institutions figure out, okay, what are the most cost-effective options for efficiency? And ditto on the renewable energy side. Is it geo we should be looking at, or is it solar? Is there a role for storage here? What does that look like? All of those opportunities vary not only with the institution and the buildings they're looking at, but also, of course, with your utility, with your rate structures, with other aspects, and even just between institution types. If you have listeners, say, who are on school boards versus city councils, they probably understand that, at least and it varies state by state, but in many cases, schools have a much broader, much more defined wall in between the budgets of annual operating versus capital. So if they can use some capital funds that they might have access to fund a big energy project, be it efficiency and or solar, say, and then save a lot of money on their annual energy bills, that frees up a lot of funds in their annual operating budget to do other really important things for education. So, there are a lot of issues that work into that are relatively specific to energy projects with large institutions that are a little bit different than businesses and homes. So that is a reason and an opportunity for focusing on in that sector here.
Well, we hear a lot about, schools and local governments want to do these projects, but it's hard. I mean, staffing on those local levels is, they're trying to do their day-to-day business. So through your technical assistance program, what benefits can the community or these schools expect to receive if they, express interest to your group?
Right. Well, hopefully the help they need to actually do something, because it's complicated for all of us, and schools and local governments, community cities the same way. There's not staffing often to figure this stuff out. Bigger cities often have more planning staff. Sometimes they still don't get it done, but so many of the times our smaller communities have nobody able to really see this through. And so, if we can offer quality technical assistance, we can do that analysis that helps them understand, look, here are your options. look at a prioritization setup, look at, well, if we want to take these on, who's going to do it? Who are the contractors? What's the timeline look like? What are the additional potential state and federal incentives or utility incentives available? We need to be able to help create a roadmap for these local partners and actually help them get the work done, move all the way through that process, which is why, again, this energy planning is so much different than just an energy audit.
Mhm.
Come do a little analysis, print out a report, and leave. That's not going to get the work done. So hopefully that ongoing partnership, that following that journey through with these customers will help. And of course, the goal, often generally speaking, from the community and institution side, is to save some money significantly. Whether they have their own internal, say, carbon footprinting and climate goals varies widely, as we know, based on local governments, based on schools. Some might not. And if so, then of course we do the analysis that also shows the emissions reductions, and that's all good. And certainly what we found in most of our rural communities where this project is focused is, I mean, we know climate conversations politically on the national scale can be divisive. Locally, actually, we really believe that most people have an understanding that the climate is changing and we need to do something about it. And if we can show economically that there are benefits, most folks are ready and willing to roll, even if we don't need to talk about it from, that motivator standpoint. So economically, though, all these projects need to be economically viable. And that's just part of the fiduciary responsibility of local leadership, whether they're in schools or local government or whatnot. And so that's what we hope to be able to show and find those financially viable options and just help a lot of communities move forward and get it done.
So can people reach out to you on your website? Is there information if they're interested? I can include a link to your website if folks are interested in learning more about this and reaching out to you. Is that a good place for folks to go? Maybe give you a call?
Absolutely, they can go to the website. They can actually, if they're really excited, they can submit a note directly, say through the contact on the email. We don't have the program information open yet because we don't have even the contract yet. So we've advertised positions just to try and get that people search going. We actually can't hire anyone yet, but we hope to be able to do that soon. And then coming here in May, for sure, we will have more program materials open, more clarity on the website about how folks can apply. And I just want to be clear, of course, this grant is targeted towards the 8 non-metro counties within the Clean Energy Districts of Iowa footprint. So here in Iowa and northeastern Iowa and southwest Wisconsin. You can look right now on the website and see the map of where those counties are. And if you're in those counties, the best thing you can do actually is contact your local energy district because they will be working quite a bit on the outreach. And on the website, every energy district has contact information located. So yeah, it's a good question. And the best way for folks, if they're in those counties and interested, go right to your local energy district, say, hey, I'm raising my hand, and they'll be sure to get you on the list. We
I'm
are
one on that list. Great. Well,
exactly.
I'll include a link to that in our
Super.
comment section below. So, the bipartisan infrastructure law has provided, they are saying unprecedented amounts of funding for programs like this. How was that process for your group, and any advice you have for similar organizations such as yours that maybe want to take advantage of some of these funding opportunities in the future?
Yeah, it's a really good question. The BIL and the IRA both are doing some really amazing work. And they have some programs available, and EECBG is one of them now in many states, including in Iowa, has had that application open for the flow-through funds to direct to local governments right now. So communities can certainly look at those. From the nonprofit side, I would say, I've mentioned it many times here already, technical assistance is so vitally important. Helping communities understand their options and maybe helping them put some grants together can work well. If you're a nonprofit organization working locally and want to provide technical assistance, yes, wonderful, excellent, please do. The challenge is finding funding to support that. So you need to work closely with your state energy office. Many of these federal programs are flowing through state offices, and they have potential to use some portion of funds to help support technical assistance. So we all need to continue advocating for that with our energy offices. It's actually unfortunate that more of the programs in the IRA and the BIL that are targeted to customers and to communities didn't also carry a significant allocation targeted specifically for technical assistance providers. Because what we've always said in the energy district world, and we're going to continue saying forever, is we really need universal local technical assistance providers here, those trusted resources, right? Not just sort of circuit riders on the road through utility programs that are come and go and oftentimes, again, ineffective, unfortunately. We need local trusted providers that can do this kind of work with all classes of energy users. So that's actually just an opportunity for more advocacy among all of our groups. But meanwhile, definitely work with your state energy office. That's where many of the funds are flowing through these days.
And was the grant process, obviously some grant processes are not always easy. How would you describe, the application process for
Well,
you
for
guys?
this one, and it was unique because it was direct federal application. This wasn't through the state. So, in some cases, if you can work with your state energy office, it's a little bit more streamlined. The DOE has done a pretty good job, I think, on these programs and with the ECBG. It's very nice and helpful when they make it a two-step process. When they say, give us an outline, basically, letter of intent type thing. That's not when you're asked for a letter of intent, it's not just like a one-page letter. It can still be a 10-page application, sort of, but it's much more cursory than the follow-up, which may be a whole lot more detailed. So yes, the EECBG process DOE was good to work with all the way along. We thought actually it was quite a long shot just because it was a national program for this competitive pot of funds, and it wasn't especially large, actually. But we put the LOI in the first stage, and then when you get invited, well, you're a lot more motivated to go through the process for, the much lengthier full application. So when you've got two-step applications like that, it's very helpful.
Well, great, Andy. Thank you again for joining me on this month's Rural Rapport, and thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you'd like to learn more about the center, please visit our website at cfra.org. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Mhm.